5 minutes late, it's not too bad. Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugeag territory and the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugeag and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Is there any disclosure, pecuniary interest, or general nature thereof today? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by John. Seconded, thank you.
Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting agenda of July 28th, 2023.
All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move right into new business, and the first is an application for a minor variance on Lower Fletcher Lake. By Brayjack.
This property is located at 10357 Skin Lake, water access only. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.1 acres in area with 53 meters of frontage on Skin Lake. Surrounding uses are generally crown land and shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling, 4 sheds, a privy, a sauna, and a dock. The applicant has constructed a 280 square foot screen porch addition on the front of the existing 560 square foot dwelling. And it is 2.5 meters closer to the high water mark than the existing dwelling. The addition was constructed without the benefit of a building permit, and in order to obtain a building permit, the applicant has now closed the shore road allowance and is now seeking a minor variance as the addition constructed does not comply with the township zoning bylaw. Existing site infrastructure, including the water line, along with topographical constraints, do limit the available building locations for an addition that would comply with the zoning bylaw requirements. A 49 square foot sauna has also been installed, and that is 2.5 meters from the high water mark. No building permit is required for this structure. However, it is required to comply with the zoning bylaw. The sauna installed in its current location was installed prior to the current zoning bylaw being approved. The previous zoning bylaw had permitted a 4.5 meter setback from the high water mark, whereas the current zoning bylaw now requires a 12 meter setback. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received. Staff are recommending approval of the minor variance for the addition to the dwelling. However, are recommending refusal of the second minor variance for the sauna, as there does appear to be a location where it could be constructed meeting that required setback.
Thank you. Any questions for Sean on the report? I understand the applicant is here in person. That'd be you, if you'd like to provide some information for us. You're Mr. Brayjack?
So what I heard with the porch, you guys said sounds like you guys are going to approve it. Just if you guys had any questions for me about it, I don't really know where to start here, so I'll let you guys start with it. I don't know. Questions for me?
Well, I would ask why you would do a development without benefit of a building permit.
Yes, so it was during COVID. Had nothing but time on my hands, and it just kind of made a rash decision and went with it. I know it was the wrong thing to do. I went with it, just made that decision and went with it. I know how to build. I could get it up quick. I now realize how long it would have taken if I had gone with the proper step with the minor variance and everything. And the road allowance and all that. But yeah, definitely should have went that way, but I made the decision not to.
And here we are.
Yeah.
My only other question is whether or not the sauna can be moved.
Well, so it was a gift from my parents. It comes in a pre-assembled kit. And if anyone's ever built something like that, it's like an IKEA set, doesn't come apart again, then again, be rebuilt. So I don't even know how I'd be able to do that without actually destroying it in a sense and then trying to rebuild it, but it won't go back definitely the same way.
Questions from the members?
Yeah, I just have a, just because we don't have the benefit of photographs, but what kind of sauna is it? Is it one of those barrel saunas?
Not a barrel, it's just like a half, like this sort of shape.
Yeah.
Christine,
I think there is a picture.
Yeah, there was
Is
some
there a
attached.
photograph?
can you see it from
Yeah.
there?
It's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so if you see it from the lake, you can barely even see it actually. It's 7 by 7, at 49 square feet, natural cedar. It's not really, and on my lake, you can, like I said, you can barely see it. We're at the far end of the lake, no one's even really there. And I honestly didn't have any idea you needed a building permit for something that small, so.
Mr. Rogers, any questions? Or comments?
I just, you didn't realize you needed a building permit, which you don't actually, you don't need a building permit, but
Yeah.
were you aware of zoning bylaws? Did you know? that
No,
there
I
are
had no
zoning
idea.
bylaws?
Everyone that I've ever talked to, being on a small lake and other small lakes, I was always under the assumption that anything 3 by 3 by meters under that you can build. So I had no idea.
Okay, thank you.
And I just, another question, there's a boathouse down there already, right?
It's been named as it's about, it's like half the year, more than half the year, I put my kayaks and that for winter storage.
Yep.
And then the summer, it's like a sheet, sun visor sort of thing with a little table, like a bar setup sort of thing. So it's
Yeah.
a multi-purpose sort of building.
Yep, okay.
So we have a split recommendation here. And we need to make a decision whether we're going to go with the recommendations as provided, or whether you're going to allow some leniency with respect to the sauna. Thoughts?
I think, Madam Chair, that I have some sympathy with the applicant and the fact that a small structure like the sauna is because you don't actually need a building permit. I can see sometimes you think I put it here, it's because it's water access only. I didn't actually get out to see it, but the pictures seem to indicate to me it's been nicely constructed. It's in a neat and tidy place. Sean, I do respect your report, but I think in this particular case, I would actually move that we approve both of the variances that have been requested.
I am in agreement on that. I think because there is an existing structure down there of the boathouse, if there was an application to kind of add on to that existing structure, you know, how would we look at it? And when I look at where the sauna is, you know, it would just be, I understand we have a bylaw that mandates what setbacks should be. But in this case, I do sort of feel that where that sauna is not really going to impact anything on the shoreline that we might want to preserve. It would just be an empty space.
Which is kind of what we're looking for on shorelines. Just to be cheeky.
No, I agree.
I don't disagree with you.
I agree, but when I do look at that shoreline there, I mean, a lot of it is about preservation of the shoreline. When I do look at the shoreline, I do still see the natural landscape. You know, if it was just a deck that was there, as part of the dock structure. This just so happens to have a sauna on top of it, but it's,
So will we need two resolutions or can we resolve this with a single resolution?
I've amended the resolution to support both variances.
Okay, so I'm gathering that we have a mover and a seconder for that resolution, that being member Rogers and member Sharp.
Moved by John Rogers, second by Christine Sharp, be it resolved the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application HMV 00523 to seek relief from section 4.14.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 18 meters to 15.1 meters for the purpose of constructing a 280 square footed screened in porch. And from section 4.2.9 G of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 12 meters to 2.5 meters to permit the construction of a 49 square foot sauna. Conditional on confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed screen porch is not located closer than 15.1 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And two, any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit.
All in favor?
I,
That's carried. No more building without a permit.
Already got Greg on a permit right now for something else, so I learned my lesson. Yes, I know, well, I know all this stuff now, because I spent a lot of time reading all the guidelines and stuff, so I got it all now, so thank you so much, I appreciate it, everyone. Have a
Okay,
good weekend.
thank you. So the next application is by Bahar for a minor variance on Rockaway Lake in the Township of Livingston.
This property is located on Rockaway Island, has no civic address assigned to it currently. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 4.18 acres in area with 678 meters of frontage on Rockaway Lake. Surrounding uses are generally wilderness and rural. The lands are currently developed with a cottage, a privy, utility shed, and a dock. The owner is proposing to construct a 369 square foot dryland boathouse. The proposed dryland boathouse will have a 12-12 roof pitch to accommodate solar array panels and to maximize the solar panel efficiency. The owner is also proposing to construct a 641 square foot utility shed attached to a 108 square foot sauna. The proposed utility shed will be 12 meters from the high water mark. The owner is further proposing to install 2 solar pedestals that would be located 5.5 meters and 3.1 meters from the high water mark. With the elimination of the Green Energy Act, solar pedestal installations are no longer exempt from municipal zoning bylaws. The pedestals would be considered a structure within the zoning bylaw and are required to comply with the setback requirements for the particular zone of the benefiting parcel. The existing lot does contain topographical constraints, being a narrow island, along with the proposed site infrastructure, including the septic and outdoor wood burning furnace, which do limit the available building locations for the proposed utility shed that would comply with the zoning bylaw requirements. And the proposed location of the solar pedestals is to maximize the solar panel efficiency of those as well. So the following minor variances are being requested. The first from section 4.2.9 F to permit an increase in the maximum roof pitch of a boathouse from a 6/12 pitch to a 12/12 pitch. 2 from section 4.2.9 G to permit an increase in the maximum area of a utility shed from 10 square meters to 59.6 square meters to permit the construction of the attached utility shed. And 3 from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback to the high water mark from 30 meters to 5.5 meters for solar pedestal number 1, and 3.1 meters for solar pedestal number 2 as identified on the site plan. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. That confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed solar pedestal installations are not located closer than 5.5 meters and 3.1 meters respectively from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed solar pedestals and the shoreline.
Questions? Member Rogers.
A quick question. I noticed in the planning justification report, and I presume we'll hear from the planner about that, but it seems that this is just one of the few pieces of privately owned property in this area. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe there's one other parcel of land on the island or on the lake.
Lake, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for on Sean's report? Any comments from the building inspector? Chief building inspector. So I understand that the applicant and the agent are available to speak to us via Zoom.
Good afternoon. My name is Savas Veratis of Plan Muskoka, PO Box 5384, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2K7. I'm joined by the applicant, Jonathan Baer, who's also present here today. And I think I'm going to just briefly add a little bit to Sean's presentation. I don't have much to add. I think he's described the proposal fairly accurately, and I do agree with his recommendation, and we're okay with the conditions being proposed by staff to be included with part of that recommendation. I want to just clarify, this is the I think it's actually the only private piece of property on Rockaway Lake. I believe the other one that was referred to is a land lease on the property, but Mr. Baer could probably clarify on that when he comes on. I just want to emphasize that these 3 variances relate to accommodating infrastructure for the basically servicing of the property. As you can imagine, there's no hydro running to it. There's no ability to drive to this property with sort of supplying it with this normal rural standard infrastructure. So the boathouse pitch roof design and the solar pedestals will serve to allow the solar usage of this property. And I just want to clarify too that the utility shed addition to the sauna is actually it has no walls. It's just basically like a covered area that's going to be used for the prepping and storage of firewood. So in terms of visual impacts, it is located 12 meters from the water, or proposed to be located 12 meters from the water, and without the having those walls, and the actual visual impact of the structure itself is fairly minimal. I do agree with Mr. O'Callahan's description of the property. There are some topographical constraints on it, but it is heavily vegetated and will remain heavily vegetated post development as well. And that's something that was emphasized and approved as part of the approval of the cottage that is being approved for the redevelopment of the lands. So I guess I just want to emphasize again that I agree with the recommendations made by staff and the conditions being made, and I'll pass it over to Jonathan if he has anything to add briefly.
Thank you, Savas, and thanks to all. I appreciate you taking the time to consider this project. As you can tell, it's quite unique, and I'm sort of proud to be working on it, and hopefully hope that the town will be proud of it once completed. It's going to be quite unique, and again, I hope a point of pride for the whole township. Not much else to add. I don't want to take up too much time, but a couple of points that Savas brought up that I think is worthy of note. One is, there is one other property on the entirety of Rockaway Lake. It is leasehold. That's the Miller brothers, Norm, Larry, and Ross, and I'm in close contact with them about this project, and they're quite excited about it too. They do lease that property from the Crown. There is, sorry, there is no road access. It's only accessed by sort of off-road vehicle. And my intentions are to create an off-grid full season dwelling, which is quite challenging. I think all three of these variances drive out of that main sort of principle and that main goal. The utility shed is, as Savas says, it's open, but it's mainly going to serve as firewood storage, because during the winter, a wood boiler will probably, supply a lot of the sort of heating and energy need. And so we need covered space, and because of the topographical constraints, we have little choice. But I just wanted to reiterate that really all three have a common theme behind them, which is driving sort of the creation of energy for this off-grid infrastructure. Even these solar pedestals are being located at locations on the property where we've had an energy consultant come out and take solar radiation readings and sort of tell us, the various spots in which we can achieve those results. And the last thing I'll say is, and Mr. Ocala can attest to that, is all of these, the infrastructure behind each three of these variances is located on the side of the island that closely faces the mainland. And why I say that is it was important to me in my own background in coming to this project, and the reasons why I'm passionate about it is that there'd be little visibility on all sides of the island of what's being created, but in particular on the main body of the lake, where you do have canoe tripping parties, almost as your main users of this lake. So it's not very frequent, but they come by once in a while. It was really important to me to have as least interference on that side of the lake as I could. That side of the lake faces south, and I have chosen not to put solar arrays up so that the paddler by would see these intrusive pieces. Instead, the high-pitched roof on the boathouse that we're talking about, and the solar pedestals, and as well the utility shed, they're all on the side of the island that faces the mainland. It's sort of a narrow bay, if you can picture that, maybe a couple 100 feet from, where the off-road trail comes down to the lake. So we really have tried to do our best and have spent countless hours at trying to figure out a solution that we think really meets all stakeholder interests, at least the ones that I value, including the town and the users of the lake, which are fairly, sort of remote wilderness traveling users. So that's it. I'll stop here, and I'm happy to field any questions if there are any.
Well, before I go to questions, I'll just say we appreciate all efforts that you've taken to maintain as much of a natural environment as possible. I understand there are some serious constraints that you're probably dealing with, so appreciate that. Questions from members? No questions? Well, that was simple. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve the recommendations being made? Member Sharp, seconded by Member Rogers.
Moved by Christine Sharp, seconded by John Rogers. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application AHMV 00723 to seek relief from section 4.2.9F of the zoning bylaw to permit an increase in the maximum roof pitch of a boathouse from 612 to 1212. 2 from section 4.2.9G of the zoning bylaw to permit an increase in the maximum area of utility shed from 10 square meters to 59.6 square meters. And 3 from table 2 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 5.5 meters for solar pedestal number 1 and to 3.1 meters for solar pedestal number 2. Conditional on confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed solar pedestals 1 and 2 are not located closer than 5.5 meters and 3.1 meters respectively from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed solar pedestals and the shoreline.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Just a reminder that there is an appeal period that you have to go through before construction can start. Meanwhile, good luck with your development.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next application is by Brubaker on Cushog Lake.
This property is located at 1046 Development Drive. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 0.78 acres in area with 30.48 meters of frontage on Cushog Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a cottage, a utility shed, and a dryland boathouse. The owner is proposing to construct a 72 square foot addition to the dryland boathouse. The existing boathouse is 240 square feet and is set back 1.42 meters to the southerly interior lot line. The proposed addition will comply with all of the requirements of the zoning bylaw. However, it does require the following variance. And that is from section 4.2.9 1 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 1 meter to permit the 72 square foot addition. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received, and a letter of support has been received from the owner of the adjacent lot to the south, which would be most impacted by this reduced setback. Staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. One, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed dryland boathouse addition is not located closer than 1 meter from the southerly interior side lot line prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And two, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Any questions on Sean's report? Mr. Rogers.
Actually, I'll wait. I may have a question after we've heard from the applicant.
Okay, the applicant is present.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you just identify yourself?
Yes, my name's Catherine Bradley Brubaker, and I'm the owner of 1046 Development Drive. My husband is also here with me. And we are in agreement with Mr. O'Callahan's report on the proposed addition to the boathouse.
Was there anything that the members wish to ask the applicant? Mr. Rogers.
I just want confirmation. When I went out to do the site plan, we had the opportunity to chat, and there was a line that had been put up with respect to the where the surveyor had already come in and given you a lot line, and you're comfortable that you'll be able to be 1 meter away from that line.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to come out and view the property. Our concern was we had already spent close to $2,500 on a surveyor to survey the lot at a 10-foot. The original boathouse extension was going to be 10 feet. Subsequently, we found out that the maximum was 6 feet, and this report calls for confirmation from an OLS that it be no more than 6 feet. Subsequently to your visit, we were able to connect with Bishop Geyer, and they're good enough to work with us and give us a letter at no additional cost. So we're fine with the report the way it stands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the application? Member Rogers.
Move the application.
Member Sharp.
Second.
Moved by John Rogers, second by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application AHMV 00923 to seek relief from section 4.2.91 of the zoning bylaw to reduce the interior side yard setback requirement from 6 meters to 1 meter to permit a 72 square foot addition to a dryland boathouse. Conditional on one, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed dryland boathouse addition is not located closer than 1 meter to the southerly interior side lot line prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. And 2, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
All in favor? That's carried. So your application is approved. Just keep in mind that there's a 20-day appeal period before you start construction.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last application is by Cut on Cushog Lake.
This property is located at 1470 Cushog Lake Road. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 1 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.04 acres in area with 47.2 meters of frontage on Cushog Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling and a dock. The applicants are proposing to construct a 1,025 square foot 2-story addition and raise the existing cottage and finally construct a 220 square foot open deck. The proposed addition will be constructed on the rear of the existing dwelling, and the existing dwelling will be raised in its current footprint. The proposed deck is on the front of the dwelling, moving closer to the high water mark than the current deck. Existing site infrastructure, including the driveway and septic system, along with topographical constraints, do restrict the available building locations for the proposed additions that would comply with the zoning bylaw. The following minor variances are being requested. First, from section 4.14.94 to increase the maximum gross floor area permitted from a legal non-complying structure from 40% to 105% for the purpose of constructing a 1,025 square foot 2-story addition. 2, from section 4.14.92 of the zoning bylaw to increase the maximum height permitted from 20% to 30% for the purpose of raising the original 971 square foot dwelling. And 3, from section 4.2.7D of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 12 meters to 9.6 meters to permit the construction of a 220 square foot deck. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Cushog Lake Property Owners Association. No objections have been received. And staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance.
Questions from members on the report from Sean? We do. I believe the applicant is here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Good afternoon, Mr. Cutt.
Hi, thank you for meeting. My name is Zach Cutt. I am the son of the owner of the property. We've been on the lake since 1953, and Sean gave a really good recap of what we're planning to do. So the addition is to add some square footage to the cottage to help make the building more accessible. My parents are approaching in their 70s now, so that's the reason for this application. And yeah, I'm here if you have any questions. We appreciate your consideration.
Any questions for the applicant? Did you have a question?
Yeah, just one, just looking at the diagram, the site plan that you did, it looks like the deck that you're proposing is almost sort of tucked into a bit of a nook that's already in the cottage, and just wanted to confirm with you that it's not going to extend any further out from what that little sort of nook space is currently.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a deck there already, and we're extending the deck like across the width of the
Across
cottage.
to the, yeah, to the other corner of the cottage. Yep. Okay.
The only question I had, Sean, was whether this would have an impact on coverage of accessory uses going forward or not.
No, it won't. Yeah, they're
Okay.
within their permitted coverage.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the application? Member Rogers?
I'll
by
second.
Member Sharp.
Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby grants minor variance application HMV 01023 to seek relief from section 4.14.94 of the zoning bylaw to increase the maximum gross floor area permitted from 40% to 105% for the purpose of constructing a 1,025 square foot two-story addition. 2 from section 4.14.92 to increase the maximum height permitted from 20% to 30% for the purpose of raising the original 971 square foot dwelling. And from section 4.2.7 D of the zoning bylaw to reduce the minimum setback from the high water mark from 12 meters to 9.6 meters to permit the construction of a 220 square foot deck. Conditional on confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed dwelling addition is not located closer than 17.4 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. 2, confirmation being provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed deck addition is not located closer than 9.6 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 3, any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 4, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
All in favor? It's carried. Their application has been approved. There is a 20-day appeal period that you must wait through before you start construction.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the only other item for discussion is when our next meeting would be. Assuming we're looking at the last Friday in August.
Unfortunately, I'm not available that day, so I was going to suggest August 31st, which is a Thursday. If that works for the committee.
Does that pose any challenges for anybody?
Okay.
Starting to cruise.
Okay. All
So
right.
you wouldn't have been available the next day either.
Okay.
We will have to double check with our missing member
Yeah.
to see if she's available and, we can possibly go ahead on the 24th.
That week of the 28th, I could do the 28th and 29th.
Yeah, no, sorry, there is a committee meeting scheduled on the 29th, but it's in the morning. We could tentatively schedule it for the 29th if that would work for everyone, which is a
How
Tuesday.
about the 30th? Okay. Then let's shoot for the 29th.
29th.
You're taking away my ability to go to my art class. It's my one thing of the week.
But what about the week before? We said there's.
No, it's all right. We've got conference that week, so that, takes out a lot of that time. The 29th, it's fine. I'll pout, but it's fine.
I'll send a confirmation out to the members once we.
Right on.
For the 20th or the.
Okay.
So whatever.
Okay, then we have nothing left but motion to adjourn. Mr. Rogers is sharp.
Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns its regular meeting at 1:48 PM.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.